South Africa declared Israel's charge d'affaires Ariel Seidman a persona non grata and ordered him to leave the country within 72 hours, saying he violated diplomatic norms, including using official Israeli social media to attack President Cyril Ramaphosa and also failing to notify authorities about visits by senior Israeli officials. The immediate retaliation, in fact, Israel then expelled South Africa's senior diplomatic representative, Minister Shaun Edward Beenveld, giving him the same 72-hour deadline to depart. The dispute is part of the broader, long-standing tensions between the two countries, rooted in South Africa's strong support for the Palestinians' rights and its 2023 case accusing Israel of genocide at the International Court of Justice over the Gaza conflict, a charge that Israel has strongly rejected. We have roped in Emeritus Professor of the International Relations School at the University of the Witwatersrand, Professor Gilbert Khadiagala, to further discuss. Professor Khadiagala, it's always great having you with us. A very good afternoon. So what is your opinion on this tit-for-tat expulsion of diplomats between South Africa and Israel? I mean, what did you make of it? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think this is a predictable escalation in the relations between South Africa and Israel. These relations have been bad since 2019, and I think they have just deteriorated over the years since the Gaza war and then the ICJ case when South Africa took Israel to ICJ for genocide in Gaza. So, and then there has been a very small diplomatic mission, Israeli diplomatic mission in South Africa, because those relations have been downgraded over the years. So it was a bit unusual, I think, for the charge d'affaires really to be taking those kinds of positions, inviting Israelis to come here unofficially. And I think that conduct is understandably a breach of diplomatic protocol. So I think the expulsion was understandable, but again, the retaliation on the Israeli part, limiting or rather expelling the ambassador to the West Bank, is also understandable in the context of, I think, Israel wanting to make its position clear that it's not very happy with South Africa, and it has not been happy with South Africa over the years. So I think the way to de-escalate this deterioration is probably to come back and sit together and discuss, because I think the ICJ case remains a very contentious problem in the relationship, and the Israelis have made it very clear that they will not really want to resume normal relations with South Africa if that case is not dropped. But again, South Africa, I don't think, is willing to drop that case.
Absolutely, Professor. I'm sure you saw, of course, the response from Durko immediately after Israel had, of course, responded with that expulsion of our representative to Palestine, seemingly basically saying this doesn't have any effect on us. Now, as always, when it comes to matters of Israel, while we're talking about those diplomatic protocols, Professor, differing views are always expected, right? Some feel this was a drastic, unjustified and undiplomatic move on South Africa's part, especially in that the reasons like the high-ranking officials, as you've mentioned, visiting state buildings without proper notice, say this is the only, they say this is only because it embarrassed South African authorities. I mean, talk to us about that argument or reasoning, as well as the other reasons given by South Africa for the swift expulsion. Do they make sense?
I think they make sense in the, as I said, in the context of a relationship that is not warm, a relationship that is essentially collapsed, if we could put it that way. So any invitations, I think, to South Africa by Israeli officials, particularly if they come under the radar, if they visit, and this is, I think, the accusation, they visited the Eastern Cape under the invitation of the Abatembu King, but they didn't inform even the provincial government. I think, to me, this is kind of going offline. So the response of DIRCO and South Africa, I think, is clearly understandable because courtesy would have meant that they should have been informed that, in fact, there is a delegation visiting the country. But you see, the other point they are making, DIRCO is making, is that the Israelis have been using their social media platforms to disparage and demean the presidency of Ramaphosa. So I think that, to me, also goes totally out of line for a country that wants to, in fact, resume normal diplomatic relationships.
So now the broader question then becomes, Professor, what are the potential long-term geopolitical implications, if any, of these developments?
The geopolitical implications are huge because the United States is also involved. The incoming ambassador of the United States to South Africa had mentioned that one of his big points he's going to raise with the South Africans is the ICJ case against Israel. So in the case of the expulsion of the Sharjah d'affaires, on the eve, in fact, I think, of the ambassador coming to South Africa, that is going to be another sore point in the U.S.-South Africa relations, because the U.S. feels that South Africa, in fact, has behaved badly when it comes to Gaza and when it comes to the Israeli case. So the bigger implications to me are how the U.S. is going to respond in the context of the deterioration of the relationship between Pretoria and Israel. So we have to see in the coming days how the U.S. is going to respond. That is my biggest fear here.
Right, Professor, thank you so much. That's where we're going to leave it. Thanks for that sound analysis. Professor Gilbert Khadiagala of the Wits School of International Relations there with his views on the SA-Israel debacle.